Welcome to our I Am Workshop Conversation Series, a transformative journey designed to inspire self-discovery and ignite your creative spirit. With your hosts, Anna Maria Davalos, Maria Lanes, and Maclovia Martel. Today's guest is Forrest Green. He has a master's in clinical psychology. He's been called the healer's healer. He's founder of Soul Source Alchemy Energetics, an avenue for personal spiritual counseling and life transformation through energy, light, and sound. A heart-based, spirit-inspired master improvisational musician and sound energy facilitator aligned with nature, spirit, and a wholeness, balance, and harmony context. I just want to thank you, Forrest, for being here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us on I Am Conversations. First question. Is there a transformational experience that has changed your life forever?
Or that has led you to who you are right now?
Well, it's really interesting. I've pondered that question, and I think of many, many times where I've made these transitions. It's like I look at life as that we have these like cold capsules that release information or medicine at 2 hours and 4 hours and 8 hours.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have these soul time capsules that we have a certain amount of experience, something else opens up. We have to have another experience, something else opens up. And my whole life continues to be this transformational journey. I just keep expanding and expanding. And I know in my work that I can only help another person to the degree that I've worked on something. So I'm always looking to see what is my next step. Now, I looked at that question way back when, like, where did I really begin? What was a transformation? And I shared this story once when we chatted a little before we got on this. And I shared about when I was probably about 6 or 7 years old. And my parents were going to this congregational church in Oregon City, Oregon, which is where I grew up. And I remember sitting in it's kind of like a little auditorium. They had a stage, and my grandmother was a major influence of my life spiritually. Was a Sunday school teacher there. But I'm sitting there, and I kind of went off on my own world, and I started thinking, well, if there's a moon and there's a sun and there's stars, and then there's more stars, and then there's more stars, and there's more stars, and there's little kids going up in and never stopped. It's like I went into infinite space, and I would say that was my first really conscious cosmic transformational experience, which opened up these doors. It was like into the step or the realm of infinity. And it felt really good. And then I came back, and they're talking about the Bible or something like that, or some pageant story that we were going to create. But that, I would say, that was probably my first. And another one was I started playing music when I was 8 years old. I took piano lessons, and I think when I was starting to get into college, actually graduate school is really where it kicked in. I started to listen to certain musicians like Keith Jarrett and people that did a lot of improvisational. And then that was transitional for me because I started to let sound and frequency come through my fingertips translated on a keyboard. And I have a little saying that when I play, I get out of the way and spirit has its say. So it's like I just let it come through. And that's when it really started. And I've continued throughout my life. And in a way, music has been a touch point that gives me feedback about my own growth. In other words, how I'm developing the music, what's starting to come out. And just recently, in fact, last night, I was listening to some recordings that I made in some of the sessions out in California and Oregon. And I'm realizing that, they're so personally aligned with the person I'm working with that sometimes they might not have as much universal appeal, which some of my music does, of course, but I'm realizing I'm going even to more depth to resonate literally in the key of a person's soul. So
Wow.
that's kind of a long answer for your question, but I
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah. Now, when you were a child, you said you went up and up and up and up. Now, were
Yeah.
you visualizing this or were you having like
Yeah.
an out of body experience?
Well, is it one and the same? Um, was I in my body? Yeah, I think I was still sitting there,
Yeah.
but my consciousness
Mm,
literally kept going through the stars, and then there
hmm
was more stars, and there was more stars,
hmm
and I thought, wow, it never ends.
Yeah.
Well, and so there's 6 or 7 you're saying, boy, there's a lot I have to learn, and what am I going to
Yeah.
bring to Earth this time? What's been my I see. I look at very clear that we have this personal and a planetary journey. The personal is our karma, what we come in to learn and what we came in to work out, to interact, and to balance. But I also call it going to Cosmic Gold's Gym. So we come down here and we have to work out. It's like, oh my God, I got to do another 10 reps. Yeah, you signed up for it. That's okay. That's what the Earth plane. But we also have this planetary mission because I really believe there's more and more people who are awakening to, oh, I came to the earth at this time during this beautiful transitional from the Piscean into the Aquarian, and I have a role here. What is
Like
my
right now,
role?
you mean right now?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and I mean, I look at the two of you and look, all I know, I'm just getting to know you, but I think, look at what you're doing in the world and what you're offering, what you're opening these doors. And that's part of a planetary mission.
Yeah.
Purpose.
Yeah. A
Yeah, we
purpose
were we
filled.
were working on purpose, and that's the other question I was gonna ask you, Forrest. You told me that you were an organizational psychologist and you were working with organizations. How did you apply all this other wisdom, that I would call it that, to the companies and working with? Because what I always tell McLovey and Lolly, that she couldn't be here today. It's like, uh, I think it's important to I work as a mindset coach also, work with the leaders of the world, because if we change up here, the world is going to change. So have a little bit talk or coaching with them, with politicians and with leaders, so they can think differently. Did you apply any of that, or you just got tired and you just went on your own? What would be the
No, I would
stage?
say that I was always aware of what I would call the soul energy of the people. And I would also, when I would go into a group, I would kind of bring a ring of light through them. Not so I'm like, hey, okay, we're going to bring a ring of light around. I mean, I was doing these things behind the scenes. And yes, we might be talking about, okay, what's our agenda here today, and what is our vision? And sometimes I would take people on journeys with some music and a guided kind of thing. And in a way, I remember one specific one. I took people up on a balloon ride, and I took them higher and higher, and then I had them look down at the earth and look at the children that they were working at and what was it that they wanted to shift. Because a lot of my work, because I was coming from a psychology space, I worked with a lot of agencies, a lot of,
Hmm.
or organizations that would work with children and families and community events and community development. So I did a lot of that and a lot of visioning and planning, as well as the team building and interactions. Now, like the Myers-Briggs type indicator, it's like there's 16 different types
Yeah.
that were, and you figure out what people are. So I work with things like that. That would make it very tangible and more concrete, but consciously, I always bring in a whole nother. I think there's this difference between doing and being,
Yeah.
and doing it how we express and bring it forth. But what I'm finding now, and even more with this work, emanation, radiating your own essence of the soul that you are. And that's why I call the work soul alchemy, because we're taking this higher self. And now, even more in my work, it's the oversoul that's bringing it down through the higher self into the embodied personality self.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that oversoul, well, we may share a little. Do you have any other questions? I don't want to
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
rambling.
You were talking about as far as the music and the vibration. Um,
Mm,
you were talking about 432 hertz versus 528 hertz. That 432 is the heart chakra, and that goes down to the earth. Is
yeah.
that correct? And that the
Well,
528 goes up to the sky.
Now, that's been my experience, and
Mhm.
it can be validated by a lot of people who are working with these different tunings. The A440 in the late 40s, early 50s, they made that a standardization.
Mhm.
And there was actually a lot of pushback from that. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, that doesn't sound so great. And they even went back and looked at early musicians like Mozart and even Verdi. They were doing the 432 and somewhere
Mm.
within that range.
Mhm.
And so I have found that when I first shifted my music, I remember I was doing some work up in Ohio and I had an evening and I retuned my keyboard to 432. Literally, I could feel almost like the nature spirits, the elementals, the animals that were all around, they were like perking up. And it's like, oh, they like that. And then the 528 is really what they call the solfeggio. And they used that a lot early in the chants and the monks and that sort of thing because it was aligned with sacred geometry. And my experience, as you just reiterated, it was that piece of the heart chakra down to the earth,
Mhm.
432 hertz. The heart chakra up into the higher planes is the 528. So I always keep my keyboard or my guitar or those instruments in that. Not that 440 is going to be, all, but it's sort of
Mhm.
like everyone's going around listening like this. Oh, you hear it like that? Yeah, we're all kind of in this norm. What if we went into, I mean, kind of like this light up here. What if we let
Hmm.
that light of creation just pour through and the light of nature? See, this is sort of like up here. This is like 528. Down here, over on this end, is like coming in from the earth. So if
Mhm.
we begin to bring them together, we start to harmonize with the greater frequency of creation.
Yeah, and color has vibration, correct?
Yeah.
And artists like yourself, when you
Mhm.
do artwork, you're
Yeah.
actually working with frequencies. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Maclovia was telling me also that you do healing with animals,
Or
Animal.
horses that
horses.
Well,
Okay.
what I have learned is when we drop into the heart, when we're with animals and we relax and we get out of our head and we go into this peaceful place, all of a sudden there's this energy that flows with animals because they are part of nature. And nature has been my strongest, most reliable, and
He
biggest
heard you.
teacher. Hey, look at that. We got a little company. Hello there. Hello there.
He
Oh,
heard
what a
you.
treat. Yeah, I think so.
you
Well,
know,
see,
yeah,
yeah.
her daughter works with
With
horses
horses.
and
Yeah.
she heals people through horses with horses.
Okay.
She
Oh,
says
yeah. I mean,
their hearts are huge.
they are. I just have been following and then had the privilege of meeting the director and producer of this amazing documentary called Rescued Hearts. And, and when I saw him get like emotional thinking about it, it is so powerful. And they were inspired to make the film when the producer, her name is Dana. She had been to this horse place, and there's a little girl who was like 6 or 7, autistic. She had never spoken. She got on that horse and fluid sentence was just
Yeah.
pouring right. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I've
The
heard
yeah,
that.
and
energy is amazing. That's one of the things they do. So it's and one other question is, do you teach this? Are you a teacher for healing? Like you can get a group and you can teach them all
You have retreats.
your retreats? Yeah.
I've done a number of workshops or play shops, if you want to call it that, workshops that present information. I've done a lot of presentations, like to different organizations, and I went to a Dowsers meeting and
Mm.
presented all this about the music, and it was really fascinating because I had 2 keyboards. And they said, well, can you play something in 432 and something in 440, but don't tell us which one it is. So I did, and bang, they
They
nailed it.
knew.
They could
Oh, that's
feel,
amazing.
they said, oh, that felt much more calming, much more relaxing, much more peaceful. And if we don't know, we just kind of filter it. Now, working with nature, um, and the elementals, the nature spirits, has been really fascinating. There's an amazing book called Nature Spirits and Elemental Beings by a Slovenic man named what is his name? I'll get it in a minute. But nature
Mm-hmm.
spirits, elemental beings. And basically, he said that when they started using electronic music in nature, it was almost like the nature spirits going, oh, oh, what is this? But what I've learned is they have translators now. It's like, okay, this is, we get it. We get the patterns, we get the frequencies. Okay, because digital music, as opposed to analog, is like a sawtooth and it's very
Uh,
small. So our
mhm.
mind fills in the little gaps like a stairway that all of a sudden becomes smooth because our mind fills it. But analog music
Is
is
rounded.
completely
Hmm.
fluid and
Oh,
flowing.
wow, how
Yeah.
interesting. Like
Yeah.
classical music, it's completely different than the electronical, right?
Yeah, well, like it's a lot easier for me to carry a digital piano around than a huge big acoustic piano, but it works. It works really well. And I've recorded. I have like 4 albums that I put together, and then hundreds of hours of other music. And as I say, I just start to play, and a lot of it's been in sessions. And I was just out facilitating a retreat at Mount Shasta, and the first it was like basically, it was like an Akashic record sort of venture. We
Mm-hmm.
opened up the Akashic records, which basically are the library of our soul. And that's
Hmm.
where that
Hmm.
old soul, when I talk about, comes in, where everything we've ever been. But I was recording some music there, and it was just one I called it the Akashic doorway, and then the other one I called Life Rhythms Eternal. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just flows through and it's just delightful and I get to experience it as it's flowing through my body, so
Well,
I'm sure
Mount
it has a positive
Shasta
impact.
is a very spiritual. It's almost, isn't it a portal?
Yeah, it is many things. I in fact, I've been to Mount Shasta every year for the last 22 years. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and I guess it was probably about 23 years ago. I was doing some an energy healing school, and and one of our things was up at Mount Shasta, and I stayed. And that was the year that I hiked up on my own to that place, that spring that's coming out of the mountain way up high, and called it Soul Source. And it was cool because there's these peregrine falcons flying around, and there's this water. It was like, okay, I got it. And I was drawing little drawings of trees and a stream, and so yeah, so Mount Shasta is really very powerful. People who have really delved into it realize that there's an underground or inner earth
Hmm.
civilization that's
Yeah.
there. A lot of people have heard about Telos or the Lemurians that went there when Lemuria in the Pacific Ocean went down in one of its times. Well, many of them went to.
The Atlantida. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Because since you work with all these healing techniques, if I can call that, how do you feel the world right now? Like what's going on in politics here in the United States? Um,
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that I have talked to, and some of our guests that they say that chaos has to come in order for transformation, right? Um, because it's the
Contrast.
only way to having this contrast for self-awareness. How do you see this? How do you feel this? What's going on?
yeah, beautiful question. I feel it and see it and experience it directly as a transition. And you can look at it from the precession of the equinoxes, which is a 26,000 year cycle. We're
Mm-hmm.
shifting from the Piscean age, which is belief systems, ideologies. It's very mental, and all the structures that have supported those. Well, what's happening right now, watching them break down and transition, because we're going into the Aquarian, which is no longer head centered from believing, it's going to the heart of knowing. Now, two things that I'll say that have been very powerful for me to learn. On the 12-12-12, remember back December 12th,
Yeah.
2012, the end of the world, the end of the Mayan calendar. Well, actually, what that was you think about the breath of the divine, of Mother, Father, God, was going out into manifestation as far away as it could. Well, think about a breath. At a certain point, you out breath, there's a pause, and then you start to breathe in again. And that is exactly what happened at 12-12-12. We are now, it's like we were walking away from the divine to have experience. Now we've turned around and we're actually walking back into God Goddess, and we're moving back into the unified field. Now, another way that I think of it, and I share this with people, think about a high tide. the wave goes up on the shoreline as far as it's going to go. And then what happens when it goes back? All those clams and all that sand and all those starfish and all those jellyfish, they're all going like this. And a lot of people are experiencing that and saying it. I say, turn around and look at Mother Ocean and walk back into the ocean. Go in there with the dolphins and the whales and swim and feel that return into the Mother Ocean, which is what's happening. So in a way, those are two metaphors that I use to clarify this transitional time. And you are absolutely right. It's creating contrast and it's causing awakening. And there's also a whole thought about, are we going through a bifurcation on the world? Or are
Mhm.
those that still want to learn the lessons from a power standpoint, for of a mental standpoint, for an emotional piece that might be more conflictual? Or are those that are saying, I'm ready to step into the light of the divine. I'm ready to work in the divine triangle, which on the one hand is love, on the other hand is power, above is wisdom. So it's that divine triangle of love, power, and wisdom coming back in. And we can tap into that. And so when I
Yeah.
work with, yeah, when I work with people a lot to bring them into what I call the high heart, which is, if you ever seen those Catholic candles of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, in the cleavage of the heart, there's a flame. They don't talk a lot about that, but that is, if you need, I always tell people, if you need a place to connect with your greater soul energy, just put your hand, well, I always say, put your thumb or little finger right in that little notch, that little clavicle U shape, drop it an inch below, put your palm right there, and just breathe into that place. And if you're feeling a little out of sorts, you just tap it, balance, say balance and centered, balance and centered, balance and centered. And it brings you back into that soul connection, which again is what we're reestablishing. We're
Very,
reestablishing that on the planet
very,
right now.
very
And
interesting.
isn't this the time of the feminine?
Oh my
Or
God, absolutely. I mean, as and talking to two powerful women, it's great because yes, absolutely. Now, we could probably go into your own personal experience about this, and yet, from my perspective, what I've seen is the feminine body has hold and it continued to hold codes of light for thousands and thousands of years, just by nature of being in a feminine body. Why is that? Because when our DNA went from 12 strands and it got trimmed and trimmed and trimmed down to two, they had to keep creation source somewhere alive to keep creating humans. Where do they put them in the feminine body? The feminine body has monthly cycles. What happens? You tune into the moon, the sun, the stars. Okay, you're right. And through your body, you can create life.
Life. So
Unfortunately,
we're more evolved.
we're very more, we're
yeah,
advanced. We're advanced
We're more
beings.
advanced and evolved, so we stay here.
you're miracle carriers, and I really say that very sincerely. That the feminine body is a miracle, and unfortunately, in order to deal with that, you can go into a whole other theory about what's been holding sway on the planet. But when you look at that, that's why the males were programmed to suppress that, to hold that down, to put power over that. What if that real, true, divinely aligned, feminine, creative force that's aligned with nature and spirit was set loose again? Well, meanwhile, Maclovia, just what you said, that's what's happening on the planet right now. And when I worked, and this was probably about 7 years ago. I was up in Vermont. That's one of the places that I have worked and a lot of done a session work. In fact, I lived in Vermont for 25 years before moving down here to Asheville. And I was working with this woman, and I kept thinking that, okay, the left side is your love side, the right side is the power, sort of like the yin and the yang. And I was thinking, okay, so the whole person is empowered love because you're blending them kind of like an
Yeah.
infinity through your.
No.
And what I realized was, wait a minute, that's actually what the divine feminine is. And the reason I saw that is because there's more of this, what I call illuminated, enlightened wisdom and power of what you might call the divine masculine that's coming in to awaken and support and bring in back that equality. So I'm really seeing the feminine that's coming forth is truly empowered love, not just love, because a lot of, oh, women are just love. No, no, no. It's go back to the red tent,
Empowered.
Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, it's like Adam and Eve, right? I mean, we had that since we were young. I mean, we were brought up as Catholics, but we were not very religious in my family. But it was like Eve was the mean one. She was the one that gave the apple to Adam. And it's like, and of course, well, I'm not a religious person anymore. I think there's a difference between religion and spirituality, right? But yeah, a lot of Christians or Christianity or the Bible have put women on that have to obey the men, right? And that, I think, in 2025, we're entering 2026, I think it's changing, right? I mean, you're seeing how everything is now. We have women that are being elected presidents, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the new woman that just took over in Japan. I love one of the bylines. I say she was a heavy metal drummer. I don't know if you knew that. The
No,
No,
the
no.
the
no.
woman now that the head of in Japan is a woman, as you say, and a heavy metal drummer. But
Wow.
I think that's part of the power. That's like taking back the power. What actually is happening, though, it's not just, it's a ride. The earth herself is a feminine being in so many ways. So as the earth rises, and I always bring people into a space deep in the earth, I dig down in what I call the crystal caverns where all this energy is, and then go to connect and ground in the core of the earth. And when we align with the earth, it supports us. Then we're in the rhythms of nature. And then
Mhm.
the rhythms of nature are divinely inspired, filled with spirit, in other words. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the whole feminine revolution or evolution, it's time for that. And we see the resistance because there's old systems that were so patriarchal, dominant based, power
Mhm.
based, that did not have the heart. But
Fear-based, I would say.
You understand light language, correct?
this is really interesting. Yes, I do. And I've watched people do it, and I've been in some places where I sort of people it's kind of like a parlor game, let's babble in light language. For me, I've really listened, and it's a very sacred thing. I mean, I would only do it if it's really set the stage, I'm really aligned with someone, and it starts to come. Interestingly enough, when people start to tune into what I call their galactic heritage, meaning that the soul who has come to Earth but actually has galactic origins in other planetary systems, that's when the light language starts to happen. Now,
Mhm.
light language, if you think about what we have, concrete, tangible language, Arabic, we have Chinese, we have Spanish, we have
Mhm.
English. Every time we say a word, it's very solid, clear. We know exactly. It brings it right down into three-dimensional Earth. What we're really used to at a soul level is pure telepathic, energetic, coded communication that just goes back and forth. And actually, the heart, go back to animals, speaks in light language, but it's telepathic. So I'm seeing that light language, because it doesn't make sense in a standard language, but it's a bridge or a step into what we really truly know at the soul level of a pure telepathic, energetic, encoded frequency
Mhm.
conveyance.
Oh my God. Because my husband, he says that I'm speaking in another language is unintelligible. And then I have said in my dreams that I am from, where, Maclovia? Lydia.
Lilia.
He's like, I was saying, like, shut up, in my planet we speak like that. And he's like, what is she speaking about? And I
Mhm.
said, Lydia. And I remember when I was a little kid, I would say that I was from Lydia, and I thought I was making up. And now suddenly my husband is saying, you're speaking, I don't understand what are you saying. So Maria says, you might be in the light language. It's like, no, how can it be a light language? But it's like my husband is saying you're
And this
every
is quite
single time.
often too. And he's tried to record her, but when he
Yeah, you
does, it stops, apparently.
That's really interesting. Um, Yeah, I have more and more really accelerated in the last few years with the light language. What really boosted it for me, I mean, the first time I really brought it through, I was facilitating. This is like about 7 or 8 years ago at a Mount Shasta retreat, and we're up in this beautiful place. There's like these three falls on the McCloud River. And we go to the upper fall where we feel like we tune into the Lemurian, the Telosian children, and the nature spirits and the masters. So
Hmm.
we set people loose to just kind of experience the beauty, and then we come back in a circle. Well, we're in the circle, and one of the men in the group comes over, and he for some reason put his hands on my shoulders, and I had this beautiful black Belgian Shepherd spirit dog that I was traveling with, and she crossed over that same year. It was kind of fascinating, but she was sitting at my feet. And this shamanic woman energetically comes in and says, "I want to speak to your group." And I go, "Well, I don't know your language. How it?" She says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of that." The next thing I know, I'm speaking and sort of babbling. I'm going, "Oh my God, I'm speaking in tongues in front of this group." So I'm
Wow.
kind of a little self-conscious, but knowing that there's something really pure about it. Well, fast forward about 3 years ago, I took with this guy named David Gibson, who has a sound healing institute in Sausalito. And it was the science of sound healing, which was great for me because with the music that I bring through, it really gave me a lot of more scientific basis to what I've been doing for years intuitionally. But there was a whole section on light language and how that's coming in more and more. So for me, it like in one way kind of legitimizes it and also lets me find out, so what is my capacity to bring light language in? And quite honestly, it I don't feel I'm really from this earth.
Well, yeah.
And people will say that, but
Are
I'm on
any of
this earth.
us?
Well, now that's a really good question. How many of us have come from other galactic
Hmm.
spaces, and this earth is a
Mm.
place that we've come to work and do our, I mean, this is an amazing space. But that when I go into that whole oversoul and the Akashic record, which holds the library of everything we've ever
Hmm.
been.
Yeah.
Now, the way I look at that, when people say, "Well, tell me something about the Akashic records." Well, when we were first a little snowflake that fell out of the cloud of God Goddess, we were beautiful, unique, one of a kind. And then we had another snowflake, and then another, and another. Pretty soon, we're this huge snowball kind of compacted of all these lifetimes. But each of those lifetimes has lots of experience, lots of knowledge, lots of wisdom. And what can happen is you can put those in a snow globe and you shake it up, and all of a sudden you start to see that distinct one. So I think we're moving into a place where we're actually starting to draw in all of our greater soul capacities, which comes from the oversoul, which is the repository or the record keeper of everything we've ever been.
Hmm.
So
Could
how
that be
many
the
of us?
fifth dimension?
Yeah, the fifth dimension is really fascinating. The fifth dimension is where we start to operate purely from a heart of unconditional love, and where we recognize and value the interconnected of all life, which means what goes around comes around. What I do to you, I'm doing to myself. Now, there's a lot of third and
Mhm.
transitional, fourth dimensional
Yeah.
stuff on the planet. People are not even recognizing that. Wait a minute, you're perpetrating this violence, this hostility, this genocide, or whatever you want to call it, on the planet.
Yeah.
That's going to come back to you.
Mm.
But when you're in that power journey, that's a level of learning too. So in some ways, it sounds funny to say there's no judgment about that. I mean, if that's what the soul is here to experience, at the same time, so many are now, and I feel that with the two of you, and so many, we're stepping into that greater, we're choosing to go to the fifth dimension
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
beyond. So daily I call in those fifth through 13th dimensions and beyond of my star galactic home, those that are relating in the nature realms, those the spirit realms, and to reach out and connect with those that are bringing that kind of what I
Mm.
call it, the word heart light into
Okay.
illumination
So
expansion on it.
you can see auras also?
Sometimes I hear things, sometimes I see things, sometimes I feel things. They're going the clairs, they call them, clairvoyance, clairaudience,
Hmm.
clairsentience. And when I open up, I kind of tune into that higher frequency, And then I don't know how it's going to come through. A lot of people say it. I mean, I was just showing my grandson the other day the Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan, I think her name is.
Barbara Brennan, yeah.
And she's got all these beautiful drawings. I mean, this little guy's amazing. For well, okay, I'll just say it. For some in my family, I send energetics to their space. So I've been filling my son's home with golden white light because that is for me that Christic light that is so pure. Well, this is really fascinating. I was over with my grandson the other day, and I'd been on this 2.5 month trip around the country, and it was just come back, and I had some little gifts for him and things, and a little stone that I got somewhere along the way, and other things. Anyway, he took the box, and after dinner, he's over there doing something, and we started to say, "What are you doing, Gabe?" And he goes, "What? No, don't bother me. I'm busy." So he's working on stuff. Well, he's making little drawings, and he puts it in this box. And then he had his mom bring scotch tape, and he wrapped it around and around. It was the box that I gave him some of my gifts into it. So anyway, before I said, "Can I open?" He's no. He's very insistent. "You can't open it here." Okay, but he had it all sealed. But he did say, "It's a box full of love." I mean, oh, that's kind of cool.
Oh.
So I get home and I open it, and sure enough, he's got a couple drawings. But you know what the centerpiece was? Somehow he had some sort of painting thing. It was this beautiful painting of pure golden white light.
Wow. It's the light
And
you
I'm thinking,
sent.
okay, this
Yeah.
little guy knows what's going on.
Yeah,
So
because
my
when you're a kid, you can see better
You can
than, and
tap
then
in
you
on
lose
that.
it once you, yeah.
Yeah.
he knows things. So my son was over, and I'd been taking care of my grandson for the day, and we're talking, and he's picking him up, and I have some of my pickup things. I had this little Chinese bracelet that has like a little black stones, but it also has like some golden dragons and things on it. I'm talking to my son. He walks over, he picks this up, he walks over without saying anything, and he points at the golden dragon and goes,
Aw.
where's he picking this up? Because these young children are coming in with so much less karma.
Yeah, with different
You
chip.
Yeah.
yeah, they're organized and wired really differently, and so
Yeah,
it's beautiful. I mean, like you were saying, Anna Maria, your daughter is working with horses.
with horses. Yeah, she was an equestrian rider and a jumper, and
Oh,
she had a small stroke years ago, a mini stroke. And
hmm.
since then, she's working with horses and healing with horses. So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
And for her, it's amazing because she says that the frequency of a horse and a cat, it's amazing. Well, all animals have, but horses have this special healing. So if you're not feeling good, the horse like smells you around, and I don't know how she
Uh-huh.
she does it. So it's
Well, horses have this huge heart, and
Hmm.
because they're not a predatory animal, they're a prey animal. So they are like these huge, alive, rippling nervous systems. Like
Yeah.
every little hair can feel the wind or the emotion, which is
Hmm.
like an element of
They're
wind
extremely
that goes by.
sensitive. Yeah, extremely
Oh,
sensitive.
yeah.
That's why you see them all, they're very skittish sometimes. And yes, yes.
we did a workshop with lawyers in back in Ecuador in South America. I think that was 2012 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we did a leadership workshop with horses. So the
Oh,
horses
wow.
would follow the leader, not the boss. And it was funny because a lot of them were like trying for the horse to follow and they wouldn't follow them. And they were like the actual bosses and they were following other people that were down here. So it was, wow, what an experience. It's like, okay, maybe they didn't have that leadership style. They had the ego
That's
style.
cool. I have to say, when I was an organizational consultant, uh, I was in Vermont, and I did a presentation on communication one year to the state's attorney's convention or gathering. But I worked mostly that first year with a lot of the executive assistants, and they said, "Oh, we need to bring this back for our lawyers." And so the next year, I came and I presented it. It was the worst. It was the worst presentation. It was totally unreceived, and they just did not get it. And finally, this one woman stands up and says, I know exactly what you're trying to say, but in our world, we
That
just
doesn't
can't
exist.
operate that way in that disclosure, that opens. No, we have to we have to manipulate, we have to, give mental. I mean, it was like it was a disaster, but it
Yeah.
was a learning. It was like,
Mhm.
and that's okay because that holds sway on the planet in certain ways. But I love working with animals. And a couple of years ago, when I was traveling, I was in Tucson, Arizona, and made a connection with this place called Equanimity, equine, the horses,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and this beautiful woman named Jeannie runs this, and it's a place they've got about 5 or 6 horses. Most of them have been rescued. Well, the second night I was out there just by myself. I took my guitar and I have a melodica, which is kind of like a Hohner instrument. It's got brass reeds in it. So I went to play with the horses, and all of a sudden they all come up right to the fence, and they really like the melodica. Now, what's really interesting, there was a horse there named Red who used to be a racehorse. And I had some good experiences with him earlier in the day. Well, anyway, when I'm playing, he starts parading back and forth in front of the fence. I realize what he's doing. He's reliving back at the racetrack in his glory days when they would play music before the race, and he would kind of prance around, and he was prancing
Oh
around in
my
front of the fence.
goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And you talked about the Akashan and purpose, not with the word purpose. Do you think the soul, our souls came here with a purpose, so we decided or we chose before being born? What do we need to go through to evolve? Do you have that
yeah,
feeling, that belief, that because it's like a lot of people, a lot of spiritual people are talking about that.
yeah. It's absolutely just what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, before we're born, we have a soul team. And we meet with that soul team, but it's not like all of a sudden we meet with them. We've kind of been working with them on the other side. And they outline the different options. And this is how I've come to see it. It may vary for different people, but the options of, well, this is what I'm kind of come down here. This is what I work. This is what I want to contribute. This is what I want to overcome. These are the people, the places, the situations. Sometimes our family members are ones that have either been in the similar roles or different roles, people, friends that we all bring in. That is part of what we set up to advance and evolve and ascend with our soul energy. So we set this up. That's what I call it, going to Cosmic Gold's Gym.
Hmm.
We're going to work out. And it's not always easy. And that's why people, what, and some people, I don't want this earth life. This is my last lifetime. Yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But we, okay. Yes. So what happens is we go through what we call the veils of forgetfulness. So we come in here, and the young child, actually, like I got to hold my grandson when he was 24 hours old. And he is literally looking up, and I could feel the ancestors that he was kind of like seeing, and these other beings from the other side. He had no words at all, but he's just, and his eyes are just, he's tuned in. So I could tell he was tuning in that level. But over time, we kind of forget. But I always call it our expansion and our growth and our return to light, because that's kind of what the journey is. We keep having experiences as open up and illuminate more and more. So that is kind of like the personal karmic journey. But then I mentioned we also have this planetary mission, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what we came in here to bring, to better the world, or to help it during this transitional time.
Hmm.
And so yeah. Um, a little bit of vignette on that would be that in my work, because I'm working multidimensionally, I've often worked with loved ones or animals that have crossed over. So I'm getting an insight, and this has been so fascinating for me to find out what happens when you go to the other side. And one of the things that I've learned so powerfully is there's all this kind of fear on the planet that there's judgment and criticism and
Mm-hmm.
blame, shame, guilt, and fault. Now, when we go across, what happens is we go into a field of unconditional love. What that unconditional love, it helps us reflect and say, okay, where did you do really well? Where did you do not so well? Where did you feel like you really messed up? And how would you like to do it better? So these beautiful beings of light are just very present with us, but it's unconditional love. There's no blame, shame, guilt, or fault.
Yeah,
There's no,
there's no good and bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and the good and bad is our own sense of that. So we're turned back. Now, that's not to say that some people don't have a hard time when they go across. They're resistant. They're still mental, or they've got these ideas, or they're not open. But you're worked with these, you might call them high level beings, star beings, light beings, angels, whatever you want to call them, and you'll meet with your team again.
You were saying something, Maclovia, the other day that it was like peaceful for me when we were in LA in your house, that before dying, the soul gets out of the body so you don't feel old. Because one of my fears of dying is like, oh my God, that's gonna hurt so much. And after going through cancer and everything, it's like, oh my God, that must hurt. And La
Uh-huh.
Maclovia says, no, the soul, not soul goes out before
Yeah.
Well, that's
dying.
just, from seeing my
Yeah.
parents and like your body gets ready to it knows what to do. Your body knows what to
Yeah.
do, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. And so it's not like you're screaming in pain, or like you're calm.
Ouch.
You're calm. You're calm.
Yeah. There is a thing, there's a threshold where the body lets go of the soul spirit. And if it's like it's too much, it's like ready to go. And well, I'll tell you a little story. When my mom, who actually lived to be 94, I was with her before she was crossing, and she ended up getting pancreatic cancer. But it came on really rapid. It only
That's a
took 2 months.
painful one. Yeah.
Well, now here's what's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with her, and I'm looking, and I'm going, Mom, if you want, we can clear this. Because what I saw was that there were things that she said in her life, expressed herself, certain things she held back on, but some things she wanted to say, it was like she had a little yellow legal notepad and she'd write things down, but then she'd crumple it up and throw it in a wastebasket. Guess where the wastebasket was? In her
Where?
pancreas.
And
So I said, so I'm saying, Mom, if you want, we can clear that out. You know what she said? She said, No, I'm done with this life. I'm done with the relationship. I just want to go without pain. So I said, okay, we'll work with that. So up until the last about 7 or 8 days, she went without pain. And then they did give her some morphine drip because it was getting painful. But to go with pancreatic cancer up until your last, week or two, that's kind of amazing. But
yeah.
her thought when she said, No, I'm done, but I saw it energetically. And that's kind of how things come to me. Was I
Yeah.
looking at her, or no, I was getting an image of a wastebasket, and
Mm.
she's writing things down, and so that's how information comes to me. Um, I've often thought about that, because Anne Marie, you talked about, do I see or in colors?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's not like, I'm not like a psychic voyeur and walking around and looking at people. No, in fact, when I was just starting to open up really into this, I thought, I don't know if I want to be open. I'm probably gonna get a lot of information I don't even want. So and that was that school that I went to that was at Mount Shasta, and then we did classes in Sedona. What I learned, two things. One, I got validated that my intuitive perceptions were very accurate. I also learned how to turn it on and off. And I call it the radio thing. It's like I plug the radio in, I turn it on, I find someone's channel, I listen to it. When I'm done, I can turn the radio off.
Mm. So
Hmm.
So I
you're
don't
an
have to.
intuitive as well. You're an intuitive. It's like a mediumship.
Oh, actually, I would say I'm probably more intuitive than anything, but it's through the intuition, the inner teacher, that
Mm-hmm.
everything flows. And
Mm.
and I say that there's three eyes of creation. We set an intention.
Mm-hmm.
What is it we want to see unfold? We listen to our intuition, our inner teacher, and we expand our imagination. Oh, it's just your imagination. No, that's your imagination. I am the genie. I am, what does that mean? Genie. I'm a genie, magical. And so that imagination for me is exactly how I take energy and bring it into form. Now, some people say, well, how do you do this? For me, sometimes energy will come in through my lower chakras, almost into my lower belly, but then I let it rise up and it
Mm-hmm.
goes into what I call the pantry of my mind, where there's all these words on the shelf instead of cans of beans and corn and all that. No, I got words up there. So I find a word that matches the energy and
Mm.
then I can communicate it. And I realize that
Is there
Not
an
everyone.
exercise that you can do with us here so our guests can see? Like, I don't know.
We will do a little exercise here, but this is sort of an attunement. So put your finger in this little U-shaped notch in your throat. Just feel that for a moment.
Mhm.
Drop it 1 inch below there. Put your palm there. And as I mentioned earlier, that's your high heart, your sacred heart chamber, or your soul connecting point in your physical body. So just breathe into that for a moment. And then take the hand on top, put your thumb in your belly button, and drop your palm down to your lower belly. And that lower belly, sometimes they call it the sacral area, that's your center of power, balance, and harmony in the physical body. And it's also a place of high creativity. A lot of times people think, well, sacral, is that the sexual chakra? Only because it's creative. And we want to manifest something, that's where we go, because it's also a place of high intuition, also known as gut knowing. I just sense it. I just feel it. I just know it in my bones. And I can, you're both nodding. You both have that center very open. And so that center is really powerful. So oftentimes, and we may do this, just let it swirl in a little bit of orange and violet light. And that violet light will clear it out and open up that center of direct, intuitive, spiritual knowing that happens at the body level. Now, breathe into that and then take that hand from the lower belly and put on your forehead. And that's your center of direct, intuitive, spiritual knowing. It bypasses logic, linear, rational, analytical thought. So actually, Anna, we put it more on the third eye, that's place right, that direct, that third eye seeing, that direct, intuitive knowing. So what we've just done, we're going to swirl that in a little bit of a galaxy of blue and sparkling silvery starlight. And just feel a little galaxy swirling up there. And just breathe into those three spaces. And you might even imagine a figure eight that's going from the top of your head like this, down around the heart, down around the lower belly, coming up around the heart. It's almost like two figure eights, one that loops between the head and the heart, and the other one that loops between the heart and the lower belly, but you connect them all in a complete flow and just let that energy. So what you're doing the divine triangle or the 3 points of power and serenity known as love of the heart, power of the lower belly, and wisdom of the third eye. So that's very powerful. And I also say when you're doing that, it's very important from the heart down to send a beam of light. And sometimes I think of it like a King Arthur sword that you take the hilt and your handle and right there. And as the blade go down, it becomes a beam of light, goes through all the layers of the earth, goes all the way to that iron crystal core in the planet. It anchors like King Arthur's sword in the stone. That grounding, literally, because you are an electromagnetic body, that helps you to ground and stabilize. Think of if you're a house and you got hit by lightning, you didn't have a lightning rod. It might just blow up your wiring, might send the house on fire. But when you're grounded, and the more deeply you're grounded and centered in your love, your power, and your wisdom, the more your auric field, this field around you. Now, as we're doing this, you may also want to put a beautiful golden white light. Sometimes I think about like diamond dust. And you think if you look at diamond dust with your naked eye, it might look kind of cloudy. Look at it under a microscope. You have these millions of little rainbow refracting diamonds all around your auric field. I call it the auric egg, above, below, to the right, to the left, and in front. Now, why does that be so effective? One of the words that I've gotten rid of in this work is called protection. People, oh, I have to protect this world. There's so much fun. Actually, when you're trying to protect, you're actually using your energy against something and you're literally holding it also in place. So I talk
Like
about
when we,
getting.
so sorry the interruption. Like when we call Archangel Miguel to protect us.
Archangel
Yeah.
Michael, yeah.
Archangel Michael, not me. Well, Miguel is in
Well,
Spanish.
now that's good too. But if you're trying to create a protective field, it's taking your energy. But the diamond dust, because it's so high vibration, you don't have, it's a filter. It repels anything of a lower vibrational energy. It's like if you were going to walk up a spiral staircase and you have these huge 4x6 boxes, you couldn't get up. So you go up and you leave it down below because it's lower vibrational energy. But the diamond dust basically refracts and it prevents, because it's so refined, this lower vibrational energy can't come in. Now, there is that piece calling in Lord Michael, archangels of light, and I call them in to surround for guidance and presence. I do that with myself. I do that with my family. I do that with loved ones, because that is also, because those are forces that can come in, but we're not pushing against something. You're letting them sort of be like your filter. And
Okay.
and I mean, I'm sitting in my energy room right now, and I've got pictures of Mary Magdalene off to my left. I've got Lord Michael over on my right. In front of me on a big wall picture, I've got Saint Germain. Um, oh yeah, here's Kuan Yin, and she's over on my left too. So I mean, I have these things down at my feet. I have two dragons. When I went to China, it was so fascinating. So much opened up for me there, and I realized that dragons are a reality. We think of, oh, they're mythical. Well, so many things that we called mythical actually have in history, deep history, and other planetary and galactic history, a place for it. So the dragon energy that's coming back, there's also, and this is fascinating, what they call the Sophia dragons. The Sophia is that divine
That's a
goddess.
Sophia code, right?
The Sophia code, that, and
Mhm.
actually 3 years ago, when I was doing my round, I go around the country every year, and 3 years ago, I called it my goddess awakening venture, because I kept having experiences. I went to it was my, I guess that was my third or fourth year, um, that I presented at this Sasquatch conference, and actually what I was doing there is sound and frequency, showing how light and sound is a form of communication interdimensionally. So, but then when I left, I went to this friend's house, and the woman of the couple ended up giving me the Sophia Code book, and it has, if you know that book, it has 7 different high level goddesses like
Mhm,
Kuan Yin and Mother
mhm,
Mary, Mary Magdalene, Hathor, Green Tara, White Buffalo Calf Woman, and I think there's a couple others, and it has all of their energies in there. But that book talks about working with the oversoul. So 3 years ago, I'd always been working with the higher self. But when I tapped into that oversoul energy, so much began to come in. And again, my soul time release capsule was saying, okay, let's open up to
wow.
the source. And so that started to come in. But I say that Sophia code also refers to the Sophia dragons, which is a beautiful goddess energy. And I think there's so like 7 of them. They're all these kind of beautiful golden white, and so they resonate right with what I call that Christic light, that golden white flame that I've been putting around. Now, another experience that I had, I went to a place in New Mexico called Three Rivers Petroglyphs, and they have like 20,000 carved in by the native people overlooking the Tularola Basin, which goes down to White Sands, which is a
Mhm,
fascinating,
mhm,
all these petroglyphs. Well, I knew that in the night before I was there, the next morning I was going to take a bike ride. So I jumped on my bike and I go down this long road, about 7 or 8 miles, and all of a sudden I see this little thing that talks about a little Catholic church, and it was dedicated to children. So I follow this road back, and here's this beautiful little chapel. And I'm thinking, oh, I guess I'm going to meditate here. Well, I thought I'd meditate in the yard. I go up, the door is open. So I go in, and it's filled with this beautiful energy that is Mexican, it's Native American, and it's
Mhm.
Catholic. So the
Mhm.
blending, they even had a painting of Jesus as a Native American in there. But one of the reasons I'm bringing that up is there's a lot of energy of Guadalupe. And I don't know if you know
yeah,
Guadalupe.
La Virgen de Guadalupe. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So Guadalupe, as the patron divine mother saint of Mexico, that energy was in there, and I got very clearly when I was doing these sessions to bring Guadalupe's unconditional love as a floral arrangement all around someone's aura. Now, an interesting kickback happened to me. So I'm doing that. And then I started getting attacked by all these women. and I thought, what's going on here? I'm holding this energy. But what it did, it allowed me as a man, I'm holding this feminine energy, and it created a grounding point. So the anger that is there for many women from what they've experienced with men and the male energy, not just men, but the male energy, hit me. So I realized, oh, I got to put that, I need to balance my yang energy. That's where the Christic energy, the golden white with the Christic flame comes in. So since I've been blending them, it works
Mhm.
really well. But if you just have one or the other, it was an imbalance. But that was one of my lessons. Yeah, it was hard. I was like, what am I doing? And yeah, I mean, I, I had to figure it out. But
When
you know,
Amazing.
when you were doing the talking about the chakras down here and here, can you
yeah,
use these for manifesting, or is that
there's lots of ways, but it has to be something that involves a vision,
Mhm.
a clarity. Well, like if you wanted to bring something in your life, personally, interpersonally, family, relationship, work, health, well-being, whatever it is, or maybe it's a complex of all of those. Just cultivate a vision what that looks like to be living that. And
Mm.
then, most importantly, then generate the feeling of what does that feel like to have that. So when you blend, and that's where we get the gut level, the feeling. So we have a past timeline, like on a matrix. We have a future timeline. Imagine there's a grid work that we're on, utilizing your future timeline. So think about this future timeline, a
Mhm.
matrix that goes out. So
Mhm.
above your head is sometimes referred to as a beautiful pearl of light, maybe 3 or 4 feet in diameter. You might think of it as your Merkaba or your travel body. So take that idea and the image and the feeling tone, climb up there with your higher self and travel on this matrix into the future till
Mm.
you finally you see that situation that you imagine it, so you can see it, taste it, touch it, smell it in its completeness. Once you've found that, put it in an orb of light and bring it back on a beam right into your heart, because the heart is the womb of all creation. It's the womb of the Divine Mother where all is created. So
Mm.
by planting that or thinking of it, you're planting a seed in the garden of your soul in the center of your heart to be cultured, nurtured, and harvested. So that's one way to manifest.
Oh, that's
Or
a
dreams,
beautiful way.
right? I was telling Maclovia the other day, like before sleeping, I mean, you can start to feel more freely when you're dreaming, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, because you're so the veils are so thin.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, you're actually in another dimension, and people say, "Oh, you're just dreaming." No, it's another reality.
Mhm.
And what's happening? I mean, okay, here's a funny story. I mentioned the Sasquatch thing. Are you at all familiar with
Yes.
Sasquatch or
Yes.
Bigfoot?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
so
the
so
Bigfoot, yeah.
Bigfoot, yeah, and they like to be called the forest dwellers. They're Bigfoot. Yeah, I got big feet, but how would you like to be called Bigfoot just because you have a big foot? But they're actually very beautiful, very advanced beings, and they sometimes think of themselves as our elder brothers and sisters. They were a genetic hybrid before we became a
Mm.
genetic hybrid. So I went to this human and fairy congress that they had a number of years. They still have it out in the Northwest. And I went to this workshop where this woman was talking about Sasquatch. Well, it really connected. Well, one thing led to another. The next year, I'm doing a presentation at this Sasquatch conference up in Eastern Washington. And in prior to that, I was having a dream. This was like a month or two before, and it's a lucid dream. I'm very aware of what's going on, and all of a sudden I see three Sasquatch just kind of marching across this field, and looked like a mother and a father and a younger one out in front, and he was just kind of proud, just walking along. And I'm going in my mind, watch. I said, "Wow, they're letting me see themselves." Oh, they're not hiding. They're putting themselves out in the open. And off to the left, there was a darker one. And I was kind of like looking at that. That's interesting. So then all of a sudden, all three of them turned and faced me. They went like this. They bowed their heads and they all turned into trees. And I said,
Oh.
"Oh my God, they're showing me how they cloak. They take their vibration and match the vibration of a tree. And so if someone's walking through with normal sight, vision, perception, they walk by a tree.
Mm.
Hmm. No, they just walked
You,
by a Sasquatch who did a
yeah.
shapeshift. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have those. What are those cams they have in the forest?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they've caught um Sasquatch, Bigfoot on the cams, but they just appear and then they disappear.
they can dematerialize and they can bilocate. And the other thing that they've done, and this has been really fascinating, is they make these glyphs, these stick glyphs on the ground out of sticks. And you think, wait a minute, is that just a random? No, this is very, and I've got all kinds of pictures of them. After that conference at up in Washington, I took a bunch of pictures up, but then I was facilitating a retreat that was in the Grand Tetons and the Montana megaliths, which is a whole other thing. But after the retreat, I was wandering through the woods trying to find one of these megaliths, and I was feeling the Sasquatch energy, and this hawk comes in and flies right in and parks itself about 6 or 7 feet from me. Now, oftentimes a Sasquatch will take on the body of another being, and I felt very clearly that's a Sasquatch. So then I'm trying to find where this other dolmen is, and I walk up this trail, and right in the center of the trail is one of these glyphs. And they're really fascinating. And it was very similar to the one that I had seen out in Washington State.
Wow.
So
Washington.
they communicate like this, and I've seen them. And oftentimes I'll get a feeling before it happens, and all of a sudden I'll find the glyph.
Wow.
The
Amazing. The question I always do is, what would be a message to humanity at this point right now? After everything, all your wisdom, everything you've been doing, and you got to this point, what message would you give right now?
Yeah, immediately the word just coming up is trust, and then trust and allow your heart to guide you. If you are caught up in trying to figure out what the heck is going on this planet, all these conflicts, all these crazy stuff makes no sense. Trying to figure out here will not get you there. So imagine this beautiful waterfall that washes all those thoughts down to this beautiful tropical pool of your heart, and watch them dissolve, and listen to what the heart says. Go to that heart space and begin to follow that, because that is where we're evolving. That's where we're ascending to, if you want to call it that. But it's not just ascension out of the body, it's a descension. The energies are coming to the planet just as they're rising up from the earth. So imagine that you're bringing up energy like a fountain from the earth into that high heart. Imagine you're bringing energy from the heavens like a waterfall down, and they meet and they spin around that high heart space. And just let that alchemy, that soul alchemy, that higher self, that oversoul alchemy work for you. And I'm doing this, I'm getting this image of like a spin washing machine. Let
Yeah.
it wash all those crazy thoughts, because your thoughts aren't going to get you anywhere. That's rational, logical, linear. It
Don't
don't work.
believe your mind. And
No.
Maglovia does an exercise for every guest. She's now going to take a card for
Let me,
you.
I have my angel cards.
Yeah.
Good one.
And I just kind of mix them, and I just kind of wait for one to fall, and one just fell on the floor. Here's the thing. Oh my gosh.
I hope she finds it.
Fresh air. It says, I don't know if you can read.
Fresh
Fresh
air.
air. What
Yes.
okay, what is the meaning?
It says your body needs refreshment from oxygenated air generated by grass, trees, plants, and flowers. Spend time outside today, as near to Mother Nature's cradle as possible. Open your curtains and windows to refresh your home as well. You were just talking about this. You were talking about nature, and nature is the best place to feel the energy. And I think this resonates.
Yeah, he's gonna have to go out right now there.
Yeah, well, it's dark here because we're 3 hours difference, and it's been raining. But I still will go out. Maybe I can see the moon or something. But I love that. And at one point too, because music is such a thing, it might be fun to play a little vignette.
Forrest, you're incredible. You're amazing. You are just a plethora of information. And
this is fun.
I know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, see, this is my planetary mission. And what happened to me And when I went to this Singing Alive thing in Oregon this summer, I came away saying, okay, I've completed a lot of my karma. So what's my dharma? Meaning, what is my planetary mission? And then when I looked at what I had done with all the sessions, the land clearing in Colorado and sessions in Oregon, California, the retreat, and then the places that I got to go for personal retreat, it was like, I think I'm doing it. And
You
so,
are.
so no accident that my our close friend Stuart from way back when opens up this door, and here we are. Because
Yeah.
we're all. That's the other thing. We are all working together.
Mhm.
We are all connected. Just like I connected with these women that
Yeah,
did the rescued hearts, and
the amount of networking and just synchronicities by for our guests to come on the show, it's amazing. Like my
yeah,
neighbor, he knows you from a long time ago, so it's just beautiful, just beautiful. But
yeah.
thank you, Forrest. Forrest, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much. We're gonna
Forrest.
keep in touch with you, okay?
Let's do. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Sounds
All
great.
right. Take
Beautiful.
care. Much
You're a
love.
beautiful human. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.